If you like this episode, please rate the podcast 5 stars 6 and take your dome. This podcast is a member of Bun Collective.
Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. And this is the MTV Show Podcast, a wrestling podcast.
Picture this, two guys talking about true crime,
Weird mysteries.
horror stories,
But the conversation is light.
and mostly funny.
and sometimes naughty.
This is
A
Scriptsalog.
Spotify exclusive.
I'm Gideon.
And I'm Glenn, and we're serving huge portions of horror and true crime twice a week.
We'll make sure your cravings are satisfied.
And you'll be begging for more.
Char.
Check us out.
This is Scriptsalog, available exclusively on Spotify.
It's Friday, you know what that means. Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. And this is the MTG Show Podcast, a wrestling podcast. Before we start this week's episode, I want to thank Yuki for joining me on that Double or Nothing review. That's a 2-hour review, one of the longest episodes of the pod. If you want to check that out, check it out. Ah. Sobrang natatawa pa rin ako from last night. You can please check it out, the episode, as soon as you can. Easy listen naman siya kasi, it's more on a podcast review talaga for the pay-per-view. And naging practice ko na siya on some stuff like noong Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, we did a centric podcast like that. So that's why ganun yung naging format ko on big pay-per-views moving forward. So, yun ang maging practice natin. So, another podcast for today, since they're going to have another 2 major events for Saturday and Sunday, Monday, Manila time here in the Philippines. So we're going to have Hell in a Cell predictions and In Your House from NXT. Actually, I'm going to discuss Double or Nothing konti lang on the second half of this podcast before we go to our predictions. Then let's start the recap. Let's start with Dynamite here. So basically, I love the Dynamite. This week's the episode of Dynamite. Number 1, yung segment ni Tana and Punk. Tana challenge Punk. He accept the challenge of CM Punk after nung match na he wants a Forbidden Door challenge. So Hiroshi Tanahashi accepts the challenge and ayun. Yan na yun. Wala pa kasing graphic for the Forbidden Doors. So wala muna tayong di ba natin sasabihin na official na. Pero that's for sure na mangyayari na on June 26. That's Sunday, Monday, Manila time on Fight and on Tap DMV. Okay. So next part of the story from Dynamite earlier. I loved how AEW introduced this show. Parang it's kind of, they're treating it as a new season. Let's talk about the MJF, yung pipe bump niya on earlier episode of Dynamite. So hindi namin to napag-usapan ni Yuki Kasi di pa naman napapalabas. So malamang sa malamang ako na magtatackle nitong pipe bomb ni MJF. So ito, konting recap lang on events. So Saturday, before Double or Nothing in US, si MJF hindi siya show up doon sa fan meet. Yan ay katumbas ng kanilang WrestleMania access. Then, yun, maraming kumalat na rumors na hindi siya sumipot dahil maybe ayaw niya and yung problema nga kay TK and yung he demands rise or raise or something like that. And lahat yun ay nilabas ng mga wrestling journalists, especially SRS. Then Sunday, nag-appear siya on the pay-per-view and was defeated by Wardlow. It's very obvious. So, nagkaroon nga ng speculations on what's going to happen on MJF. And, yun nga. So, noong 36 hours before Dynamite, we got a graphic na we will hear from MJF. So, yun nga. Nag-promo si MJF in the ring. He blames Tony Khan for everything. He blames former WWE talents. And he even cursed on Philippine TV or TV itself. He cursed on TV itself. So WWE has to censor it. They have to censor it. I said a lot WWE is here. They have to censor the part when MJF cursed Tony Khan and yung a lot of WWE stuff that he said is a miss here. He threw that shit and it's kind of funny na the fans are not taking it seriously, but titignan natin the next few days kung ano pa yung magiging development of this MJF storyline. And I would love to see MJF on this scenario na acting like Stone Cold, anti-hero guy like that, or maybe a solid heel fighting his boss. Maybe in a match, pero hindi pa kasi meron pang posibleng mangyari. Baka posibleng may makaharap si Punk tuloy, si MJF na ganun din na magiging katumbas ni Tony Khan or even a former WWE guy na pwedeng kumalaban sa kanya, especially si Punk. Or maybe there's a developments pa naman after ng Forbidden Door. So, kailangan mo na lang mag-focus ng Forbidden Door. Then, after that, yung pag-i-slow nila sa story na ni MJF. So, that's a good touch na ginawa din nila tong angle instead of a real problem. Yes, that's a real problem. Real talk. And real situation from MJF and Tony Khan. And malamang sa malamang, nag-usap na tong dalawa. Nagkaroon na sila ng maayos na pag-uusapan. And ginawa nila to na angle. I don't know it's good or bad in pro wrestling na yung totoong problema mo gagawin ka nito. Ewan ko sa inyo, maganda siya, pero sa akin maganda naman. Pero wag lang yung mga personal shit like yung mga namatay. Then, gagawa ng ganito. Like, what the hell is going on here? It's not a good practice. Never. Never in my life na masabihin ko na maganda yun. Like, bro, this death. Man. Diba? Okay, so we have to move on from the MJF story. Let's talk about Blood and Guts. So, Blood and Guts made official for June 29 episode of Dynamite. It's gonna be a Dynamite special. Then, after nun, after pala siya ng Money in the Bank. Ay, tama ba? Before Money in the Bank, after the Forbidden Door. So, basically, that's their fallout for Forbidden Door. So, probably, they're going to have stories for Forbidden Door, half the stories for the Blood and Guts. And malamang sa malamang they're starting build up all out na for September and yung Battle of the Belts by August. And there's a lot of build ups. Then they're going to have a Road Rager show on the 15th, 16th, I think, of June. That's a big stuff in AEW. And basically, AEW books a lot of shows and it's too much. But they're giving us good quality matches, good stuff. There's no problem with me. Wala siyang problema sa akin. Then, speaking of which, Blood and Guts made official JAS Jericho Appreciation Society versus Moxley, Daniel Bryanson, Brian Danielson, then Santana Ortiz, and Eddie Kingston. So basically, yun pa din na magkakasama for Blood and Guts na pag-uusapan natin maybe soon after na ng Dynamite. It's gonna be a big, massive week na naman for pro wrestling for sure. And then, yun nga. Basically, the main event for this week's Dynamite was a tag match. Wait lang, tag match ba? Oh, I think it's a tag match. Yung Young Bucks, Yui, and Hikuleo versus Matt Hardy, Jurassic Express, and Friends, and the company. So, Undisputed Elite won the thing. And that's okay for me. In the main event, Daniel Garcia versus John Moxley. Definitely match of the year worthy. Man, watch it. Trust me, that's a really good pay-per-view match. Worthy pay-per-view. Pay-per-view worthy match na napalabas lang nila on TNT or TBS. Grabe. Grabe yung nangyari dito sa match na to. And I love this stuff. Good Lord. And I love this stuff. Regardless on the outcome, that's a really, really good match. Then, John Moxley afterwards, he announced that he will join Blood and Guts. And also, Miro made his AEW return by beating Johnny Elite. Okay, Johnny Elite. The nickname king. Putang ina. The king of nicknames. Okay. So, yun lang. Basically, for the fallout of Double or Nothing Dynamite. Okay, let's talk about Raw and NXT before we go to the commercial. Then next, we're going to talk about the predictions. Okay, so Raw this week. So Asuka and Bianca, we got a one-on-one between them. That's a really good matchup. Actually, I love and I would love to see Bianca and Asuka fighting again one-on-one once na mawala na si Becky doon sa title picture for now. Then we got a brawl between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. That's a really good brawl actually. Then, okay, so the Usos versus Nakamura and Riddle. So, Nakamura and Riddle won the number one contendership. So, malamang sa malamang, we're going to have a title match really soon. Then, the contract signing between MVP and Lashley, okay lang. I think sobrang unnecessary lang ito sa akin. Then, okay, so SmackDown, we got another match between Raquel Gonzalez and Ronda Rousey. Na natapos Raquel Rodriguez. Na natapos by no contest after Shotzi, Shayna Baszler, and Natalia attacked Raquel Rodriguez and Ronda Rousey. Then, so we got the New Day and Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus, Butch, and Trish Holland. Man, at this point, I'm sick and tired of this feud. Please, pull the trigger of this shit. As soon as possible, please finish this feud, man. I don't need to see this feud anymore. Please, Tony Khan. Please, Vince, baka naman, please pull this shit out. I'm done with this feud anymore. Hindi ko na kaya panoorin to on TV, utang na loob. Na. Then, on NXT, before we go to the predictions on the second half of the show, basically, this is gonna be a short episode. Wala namang kasing stuff, no? So, okay. We did a double or nothing na. So, ito, kumbaga, complimentary episode na lang to, no? On NXT, we got the merge announcement between Nagado, Del Fantasma, and Tony D'Angelo's Guns. So, they're going to fight at NXT in your house to determine to determine the losers, basically, kung sino matatalo, sasali siya doon sa mananalo as their goons then o kaya familia. That's fine for me. So they announced the NXT Breakout Tournament final doon sa next week's episode of NXT, basically fallout of NXT in your house pay-per-view. So, missed opportunity sana na dapat nilagay na lang yun sa in your house. Mas magandang stuff sana kung akong tatanungin nyo. Kaso wala. Then okay, so I'm impressed still with Toxic Attraction. And syempre, kay Wendy Chu, I'm still impressed on her gimmick. Even though medyo pambata na siyang approach. Then finally, the main event. I love the Cameron Grimes and Nita Fraser match in the main event of this week's NXT 2.0. So yeah, basically that's a big recap for our NXT 2.0 Raw and SmackDown. Tapos yung Dynamite pull-out natin kanina. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do the predictions na yes, this is a short episode. Daw sanay na ganito kahaba yung mga eps ko, ano. So malamang we're going to do the Hell in a Cell predictions and in your house when we come back. And yun, basically yun lang. Yun lang ang gagawin natin for this bonus episode of the pod. Okay, so but before that, we want to remind you na malapit na po ang Lazada Mid-Year Mega Sale. Is going to happen on Monday, June 6 to 8. And if you want to support the podcast on Lazada, please use my link, podlink.co/6gs to get fast and free shipping as fast as 3 days within Metro Manila, plus 6 times of stackable discounts for your shopping experience on Lazada. And magkakaroon din sila doon ng last live on June 6 itself at 9 p.m. onwards on Lazada app. Again, Lazada 66 Mid-Year Mega Sale on June 6 to 8. To support the podcast, podlink.co/6gs per DTI Fair Trade Permit Number FTEB-143022 Series of 2022. Double or Nothing, Fallout, Hell in a Cell, and In Your House predictions in the bet. For now, let's check our bunkmates here on Bunk Collective.
Hirap na po kaming mag-anak. Tambak po ang labahin, wala pong lutong ulam, ang dumi-dumi po ng bahay. Ang mga anak po namin 3 araw na pong walang ligo. Hindi ko po siya makausap na ng maayos. Wala po siyang ginawa kundi makinig ng podcast. Yung po bang The Balut Kiki Project? Kung saan po siya nakikinig, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Podchaser. Maya't maya po bigla na lang pong tatawa, bigla na lang pong iiyak habang nakikinig. Ano po bang meron sa podcast na yan? Ano po bang meron sa The Balut Kiki Project podcast na yan?
The Balut Kiki Project. Batteries not included.
Naguulat mula sa shore na kasing pretty ko.
Bringing you the latest and greatest.
And diving deep into the cool waters
of BLs and GLs.
And every kind of love there is.
We are
The Shippers.
Sail with us as we watch our favorite queer love story.
And update you about the latest every week.
Kaya tara, sakay na as we sail the open seas.
With new episodes Mondays and Wednesdays on all major podcast streaming platforms.
Sakay na you. Let's go.
Okay, we're back on the podcast. Before we continue to our predictions, let's talk about the breaking news na nangyari. Konti lang to. So, according to Observer, the Women's Tag Team Title Tournament is possibly postponed for now. Probably di pa siya mangyayari ngayon. Wala pang confirmation from SRS or any providers about this news. But according to some news rumor or whatever it is, the possible women's tag team tournament is postponed for now. Ah boy. Like what I said, na kung magkakatotoo na canceled na yung tournament for now, edi nagkatotoo din yung sinabi ni Sasha at Naomi na wala silang pakialam sa women's tag team titles and the tag team division in general, o kaya doon sa women's division in general. So, ako, as a wise man, ang hirap pumiga dito, putay na. Okay, as a wise man on my own, ang solusyon nandyan actually is to retire the titles. If wala din naman kayo pake on the titles, just retire, man. Just retire the belts. Makakasave pa kayo ng malaki if i-retire nyo na lang yung belts instead of messing it like shit. Tapos hindi nyo rin naman i-respeto yung division. Parang pointless na yung booking nyo on your Women's Revolution. So, paano pa? Paano pa kayo makakapag-book ng mga ganitong matches o ganitong shit for the upcoming tournament? Gusto nyo nga pangyari. Aside from that, let's talk about another news na nakalat natin from outside. So, yun, meron ding ganap na posibleng mawala na po ang brand split. Hindi natin alam kung sino ba main source ito. Kasi kaduda-duda din ng pangalan from Observer lang ang sabi. And, duda rin ako kasi there's two different networks may hawak ng Raw and SmackDown. Tapos sabihin nyo, and the brand split. Just because of the bloodline hostage. I don't think it's going to happen for now. I don't think na matatapos yung brand split. Siguro, mas maniniwala ako na matatapos yung brand split if all of the belts is now unified. Ganon. Ganon lang ipapaniwalaan ko about that. Okay. Let's go to our Hell in a Cell predictions now. So let's talk about the matches na. So number 1, Finn Balor, AJ Styles and Liv Morgan versus the Judgment Day, Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley in a mixed tag team match. I think Judgment Day should win this match. Regardless on who or when o paano matatapos yung scenario, it should be Judgment Day winning this match to cement their team or to cement their turns. Kay Rhea in this case, it should be Judgment Day. No? Then next, Theory versus Mustafa Ali for the US title. So in-announced the Raw after noong rematch between Theory and Mustafa Ali. So feeling ko dito, lalabas dito si Miz, Distraction, and mananalo dito si Theory because of that. So Theory. Then, so it's Ezekiel versus Kevin Owens. Man, I want to see a push for Ezekiel after this feud. It's gonna be good for sure. I'm going to predict Ezekiel for this match. Yun lang. Then next, so it's Bobby Lashley versus MVP and the Moss in a 2-on-1 handicap match. And personally, I want Lashley to win, pero feeling ko it's going to be on the opposition, Omos and MVP, with Omos pinning Lashley. But feeling ko din, if si Lashley ang mananalo, hindi gagalawin dito si Omos. Instead MVP will take the pin dito, kaya top. Then, so it's a triple threat match between Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, the champion, and Asuka for the Raw Women's title. So, basically, it's Bianca Belair. Becky doesn't need the belt. Asuka, you can fight Becky for the title one-on-one after nito. So, I think it's Bianca. But I want to see Asuka winning the belt anytime soon. No? Then, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins in a main event match in a Hell in a Cell match. I love the idea of putting one Hell in a Cell match for this year's Hell in a Cell card. Now, why I don't think na we deserve every Hell in a Cell match. Ang niligay nila from last year's event, ang nagustuhan ko lang dun is yung sa Crown Jewel 2021. And that's a really good one match. And lang, yun din nagustuhan ko from last year's Hell in a Cell. Lahat ng matches from Hell in a Cell last year. Yung mga Hell in a Cell matches. So, I'm going to predict Cody Rollins. Hindi naman kawalan sa kanya if tatalo ulit siya dito. Pero it's gonna be a big fight feel for sure. And Cody will win. And magkakaroon na ng build-up for Money in the Bank. Okay? So, next, we're going to predict NXT in your house. Okay, so it's Tony D'Angelo, Two Dimes, and Stacks versus Legado del Fantasma in a 6-man tag with the losing team will join winning team. Okay, so basically, if natalo ang Legado, they will join Tony D'Angelo's team. If Tony D'Angelo's team losses pala, they will join Legado. So I think just for the twist, I want the team of Tony D'Angelo win para Legado yung sumali. Kakaiba lang siguro. Pero I would love to see Legado win din eh. Kasi sila yung mas established na stable sa NXT. And kaso ito yung black and gold pa kasi to. So malamang idadrop na nila yung Legado and they will join Tony D'Angelo. So kaya mag-merge. Ganon ang posibleng mangyari. But regardless, I'm going to predict Legado. No. Then Mandy Rose versus Wendy Chu for the NXT Women's title. For sure, Mandy to, no doubt. Pero feeling ko it's gonna be a really good match and yung shenanigans. Missed opportunity din na dapat dito na lang nilagay yung finals ng Women's Breakout, Mandy Rose tuloy. Yung kay Tiffany Stratton and Roxanne Perez, missed opportunity, but regardless, I'm going to predict Roxanne Perez to win the Breakout tournament. Then, so it's Toxic Attraction versus Katana Chance and tawag dito, Kaden Carter for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. Definitely KC2 KC deserves the titles. And kasi naman yung mawawalan dapat ang Toxic muna. Then Mandy Rose. Okay? Then Braun Breaker versus Joe Gacy. If Joe Gacy gets this, or if Braun Breaker gets disqualified, he will lose the title. Obviously, it's Braun. Finish the feud. I'm sick and tired of this feud. Then, Pretty Deadly versus Creed Brothers NXT Tag Titles. And if matatalo ang Creeds dito, ay aalis na sila ng Diamond Mine. So, probably gonna be the transition thing and Creeds will eventually win the tag titles. Then, dito ay main event, but ito yung hinulag ko. Cameron Grimes versus Carmelo Hayes for the North American title. Man, I love Melo, but definitely Cameron Grimes will win. Then Solo Sikoa will be the one who will dethrone him for the North American title anytime soon after of that match at NXT in your house. Okay. So basically that's our predictions for NXT in your house and WWE Hell in a Cell na mangyayari Sunday and Monday respectively on WWE Network. If you want to watch Hell in a Cell in Tagalog, you can watch Hell in a Cell in Tagalog. You can check WWE Network. Yun. You can check WWE Network watch.wwenetwork.com. So, yun. Basically, double natin. Konti lang. Like what I said last night, gusto ko magpasalamat sa lahat na makikinig noong episode namin with Yuki of the Kingdom Podcast. That's a big episode, man. Tangin na 2 hours yun. And one of the longest episodes of this podcast ever. So, kung meron kayong 2 hours na mas mahaba pa sa Raw or SmackDown, pakinggan nyo tong episode. That's a really good episode between the start and end of Double or Nothing. That's a really good pay-per-view review. If you're looking for in-depth full pay-per-view review for the pay-per-view, you can check the podcast on your favorite podcast platforms and on the podcast app. Okay? Picks of the week ulitin natin. So it's CM Punk for the Superstar of the Week. The Woman of the Week is Britt Baker. And the match of the week is the Anarchy in the arena match. Yuki speaks. So it's CM Punk for the Superstar. Woman is the Ruby Soho. And the match is the 6-man tag between Death Triangle and House of Black. So yeah, again, thank you for listening to our episode with Yuki of the Kingdom Pod. Definitely a must listen episode of the podcast. Check it out on the podcast platforms. And of course, please support Philippine Wrestling, the Republica event, the first post-pandemic event. It's coming this Sunday, June 5. But unfortunately, the tickets is now sold out. So you can check the event by a gank, the 4-part special for Action Novela. You can check it out via Action Novela on Gank. Just search manilawrestling.com and please support our guys from Wrestling, especially Romoran for the MWF commentary. And the rest of everyone in MWF, I wish you good luck for the upcoming MWF Republica. See ya soon. So, second. Okay? So, hindi lang ako manonood today kasi kulang sa budget. Okay, that's it for our episode this week on the podcast. You can check out again the podcast with DJ Yuki of the Kingdom Podcast for our Double or Nothing review. That's a long episode. Di ka natin sinama dito sa ating review na to and predictions. If you want to check it out. Then, follow the podcast on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and on TikTok at the THEMTGSHOWPOD. You can support the podcast on Spotify. Please rate it 5 stars. In Philippines, 6 stars in Tokyo Dome. And you can check all the Bunk Collective shows on thebunkph.com. And please join our Discord. Definitely a +1 bit.ly/Bunk Collective Discord. Ay, kaklarify ko na lang soon na. Then, ayun. So, follow us on all of the social media platforms of the Bunk PH. And my personal social media platforms at AG Pinera on Twitter and Instagram. Again, stay safe, stay raso. See ya next week for our super packed episode of the podcast in your house plus Hell in a Cell Fallout. Then, yun, basically that's it for our episode. See you next week. Stay safe. Stay raso. See you on the next episode. This is the MTA Show Podcast in cooperation with Punk Collective.